Hello and welcome to this episode of Beat Teacher Burnout. I'm so glad you're here with us today. I'm joined by a guest who's called Priv, and she is an ECT and has an amazing story of how perhaps as a slightly older ECT and also with a young child, she's managed with the overwhelm. So welcome, Priv.
Thank you, Rose. So good to be here today.
Well, it's great to have you. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners? Tell us a little bit about some of your background and how you got to being an ECT.
Absolutely. So I'm Priv and I currently teach religious education here in Portsmouth. Prior to that, I can't say I've always wanted to be a teacher because that would be a lie. So I grew up partly in Zimbabwe and then I moved over here and then I went through the education system, as usual, like everybody else. And what happened was in 2017, I met a man and we fell in love and we got married. And after we got married, he was in the military, so I had to start thinking about what other career options could I have, because if he had stayed in the military for his entire career and if we are moved from one place to another, I needed to think about what career would be able to suit me as a military wife and also allow me to have enough time at home with the children. So that's when teaching came into my mind. Having said that, everyone that I studied with at university in my class was going to study teaching. I thought I'd be a politician or something, but never mind, that didn't happen. So I became a teacher. So I started my PGCE 2020. We were navigating COVID at the time, but just to add a little bit of something to the story, I was also pregnant. So I started my PGCE September 2020, 5 months pregnant, and yeah, that was brave. When I went for my interview, I wasn't pregnant. So by the time I came back to start teaching, I was pregnant. Blame it on COVID. That's all I'm going to say about that. So I came back and started. I was in an Ofsted outstanding school, brilliant, brilliant school. And they really valued my subject, which is religious education. And I went through it. At the beginning, it really felt that there was a lot of support. I think also with being pregnant, and I was managing my classes. The workload was okay. I was, I because I'd never been in teaching before, and I'd never done any sort of placement in teaching. I just thought that was the norm. So I went in and I left around November, December time on maternity. So I had 1 year maternity off, just resting and everything, and I was excited to go back. And one of the things that I did was, after my maternity finished, when the school year started in September 2021, I actually went back, but voluntarily, just to get an idea, just to get the feel of what things were like. So I was only going maybe 1 or 2 days a week, um, just for me to get into the habit of doing things. And then in January is when I went full time back into my PGCE training. This is where I understood when people say the PGCE year can kill you, or it's really difficult. So
Right.
I had a mentor who, if I had to label my relationship with my mentor, I would consider it a toxic relationship, in the
Oh,
sense that he had expectations, which I understand. It's an Ofsted outstanding school. We have to do what we need to do. But I found myself a lot awake at 2 a.m. trying to get these lessons done and make sure that they're up to the standard that was required, and then send them over. If there was a comma or a full stop missing on a what do you call it, on a PowerPoint, I would literally be told off.
right.
Why did you do that? Those are spelling mistakes, blah, blah, blah. And bear in mind, coming in, I had also said that English is my second language, so I might make mistakes. If I do, please correct me. I also mentioned the fact that I've got an accent, so sometimes maybe when I pronounce words, that's not how they should be pronounced. But I really did try to make a conscious effort to learn how to pronounce certain words the way that they should be spelt. Um, and then that was sort of my journey. So I went into university and, we were just talking. And I was like, so do you guys wake up at 2 a.m.? What are you doing? Because at this point I was exhausted. I have a young child and life is just happening. And everyone was like, no. So it got so bad that my university lecturer then contacted the school and said, listen, we need to, work on these things. He came over to me and said, oh, this is why you're complaining to the school. It wasn't good. So it was things like he would say something, maybe he's angry, he's upset, and then naturally just a quiet person. I don't like fighting. So I just tend to, plow through it, and I wouldn't say anything. And then he would come, he would apologize, and then he does it again the next day or the next week. So I never knew where I was at. And I had the bulk of his lessons. So what the thing was, I was doing well in the other classes, but whenever I had his classes, I was so anxious. My heart would start pounding really fast anytime I had to go into, teach, and I'm being observed by him. And then there was a time when I was in university for the one day at university, and then I came in the next day and I said, oh, so what did you teach while I was away? It was like, this is what I taught. And I was like, okay. So I went to the lesson that I had planned for the next lesson. I start teaching Ro, and the kids are looking at me because they've done this lesson. You didn't tell me. So he shouts from the back of the class, they've done the lesson like I told you they did. So I basically said, well, do you know what, guys? Let's consider this a revision lesson. I had to like kind of pick myself up on, like then, let's pick this up as a revision lesson. So what do you remember? Blah, blah. So we went through it because I didn't have any other lesson planned. I couldn't move on to the next one because before I teach, I need to have sent everything over to him. And wanted like 72 hours in advance, whereas university was like 24 hours is what you need. So this friction kept happening, and that was the last and final straw for me, because I stood up for myself. He came at me as usual, and I remember he wanted to do that talk, the condescending talk and everything. I was like, no, you're not going to talk to me like that. No, you're not, because this has been going on for too long. I'm not having it. You can't talk to me like this. And I really spoke up for myself passionately, and I think he was quite shocked because he'd never heard me speak before, that he just kept quiet. And then I went away. And after some time, he's like, oh, we need to apologize to each other. At this point, I didn't even know what I was apologizing for. But, me being me, I was like, yeah, I apologize. Okay, we left it. But everybody else in the department could sort of see that things were not okay. And I would go for meetings, would sit next to each other. I would hold my tears and not try to cry. But at this point, I'm literally breaking down. And the beauty of it was, this was a Christian school, so there was a chapel. So I spent a lot of my time in the chapel crying. The reason why I cried in the chapel is because when you're praying, nobody can come to you and say, why are you crying? Hello, I'm in a chapel, I'm praying. I can cry and pray, at the same time. So I spent a lot of my time in the chapel crying. That's why I did my crying. And then I would come out and I would compose myself. But on this particular day, one of the other members of staff really noticed it. I had my head down the entire meeting, just stopping the tears from coming out. And as soon as we left, I went into the chapel. I just like really just burst out crying. And she was like, I've noticed this is what's happening. I'm going to help you. What help do you need? Um, Another member of staff in our department was like, come to netball practice. Come, we play netball every Wednesday. Another one was a bit elderly. She was like, listen, I'm going to tell you as it is. This is what you need to do. Because what was happening now was, because I was so I don't even know if it's demoralized. I was just so broken that even in places where I had been doing well, I wasn't doing well anymore. So even when they say to me, that was a really good lesson, I didn't believe it, because I was like, to the person who's marking my work, the person who's writing my report, it's not good enough. So there was that lack of communication, or I don't even know what to call it. And I remember my head of department talking to me, and I was like, I heard that you all said I am, a bad teacher, blah blah blah. Everyone was like, we never said that. Who told you that? I was like, well, that's the report that's been said. And some people were outraged by that, but this was my reality. This is what I was doing every time. So I don't want to lie, it was a difficult 6 weeks to get to the February half term. University got involved. I am so grateful for my university lecturer, because she was like, this is not good. This is not it. This is toxic. She was emailing, she was talking, and she was really great support. And the other students within my PGC cohort were really small cohort. I think there was like 5 of us. They were also like so supportive. And I then moved to my next placement. But prior to getting to my next placement, you have to have those meetings. So I went for the day. I liked what I saw. The school that I went to was considered really bad for behavior. And that mentor of mine said to me, you will never teach a lesson in that school, because you're just not good enough. And I thought to myself, that's a challenge. So when he gave the feedback, when they had the mentor meeting, and he basically trashed me in that meeting, how I'm not good enough, how I don't do anything, I don't know how to mark, I don't know how to plan, I don't know how to teach. He gave a very big report that was inaccurate. And that school, I am so grateful for, because they didn't listen to him. The university wrote to the school and said, listen, this has been ongoing for a while, and we want you to just start a clean slate with Priv, and you will see what kind of a teacher she is. She is good. She has gone through a lot. She's come back from maternity. She's got a young child. She's navigating life, but she actually is a good student. She'll be a great teacher. She knows her stuff. Her subject knowledge is great. So I moved to this school. I went there, and I was like, I remember I'm a Christian. I remember praying. I said, Lord, whatever has been said about me, please, I need to learn. I need to try. I'm not gonna lie, behavior was bad at that school. It was managing behavior, it was like trying to teach and everything. And but I was succeeding. That's when the mentor at that school then said to me, oh, do you know that when you came here, we were actually really scared, because they said you can't do nothing. It was a comment that she made. She was like, but you are actually a good teacher. What were they talking about?
Finally.
Do you know what I mean? She was like, I was like, yeah, you said I'll never teach a lesson here. She was like, well done, you've taught your first 60 minutes. Let's do another 60. Let's do another 60. And
Yeah.
this girl, my mentor then, and the department, it was a two-person RE department, but we had other humanity people in there. They just made me feel welcome. We used to sit in the staff room, they would talk to me, they would encourage me, they would give guidance. It felt, all of a sudden, it felt like I wasn't very alone. And she was like, listen, everything that you've not ticked, we are going to make sure you tick and you pass. Because at the previous outstanding school, I hadn't been allowed to teach a GCSE class. I'm training to be a teacher. What if I go and I get a GCSE class? Right?
Yeah.
There was just a lot that was, that had been going on. But this school were like my saving grace. And
Okay.
they
Priv,
just keep.
I want to stop you and ask you some questions, because if ECTs, or indeed if ECT mentors or leaders are listening to this, what would you say that is there something you could have done in your first school sooner or better to not to have gone through that awful time that nearly broke you?
I think I should have probably spoke up, but I didn't know what I would be speaking up about. That was the issue. I thought it was normal. That's the issue. I thought it was normal. And I remember going to my progress tutor and having conversations with her um when I came off after maternity leave. She was really lovely, and I explained what had been going on. And in that moment I say to her, but I don't want my mentor to know, based on the way that he's treating me. I don't want him to know. I was a person that would go and seek for help, So I would seek for help from the other members in the department. I would say, "Hey, can you have a look at this? What do you think?" So those people were helpful to me, but it's just that that relationship with my mentor just wasn't where it was meant to be at. I'm not saying that we should have been best friends, but it was almost like it was a one-sided relationship where I had to be the one that forgave him for being angry, for lashing out. He had his personal reasons why he was like that, but I was taking the brunt of it.
Yeah, but you
So,
see, for me, that's not okay. So, as a leader in school, you don't ever want to have any teacher, teaching assistants, or support staff, anything, ECT or not, nobody should be feeling like that in your school. And I guess so. You then had an experience of thriving in a school because you were part of a team and you were
absolutely.
accepted and you're appreciated. Is that right? And you could then develop your skills.
Yes, and so what happened was, unbeknownst to me, while I was in my second placement, the people in my first placement had a conversation around how I had been treated, and the rest of the team had decided that he wouldn't be my mentor anymore. They would all mentor me. And when I was doing my job applications, they were like, "Don't put him down for a reference, put us down. And if you need anything, come and see us." So that level of support was there, but I made the decision to not go back because I didn't think that it would do me any good if
Mm.
I went back. So I sent my nice emails of thank you for, for supporting me. I won't be coming back. So I stayed at my second placement for the duration of the year. And here's another thing to it. Because I'd been holding on for so long, I finally went to a school where I was supported. I had a mental breakdown because I couldn't cope.
Wow, isn't that interesting?
I had a massive mental breakdown where I
Okay.
couldn't get out of bed. And my mentor at that school rang, my family's hearing this for the first time. My mentor at that school rang emergency services for a welfare check
Yeah.
because I'd finally got to a place where I didn't have to hold it all in. And then I think because I didn't have to hold it all in anymore, I just couldn't. The support was there, the people were there, they were helping me, they were supporting me, they were encouraging me. I was making progress, and then all of a sudden it was like, "You've held on for so long," and my body was like, "We can't do this." So
Wow. So
I
can I just clarify, Priv? So actually, when you were in the really challenging situation where you weren't seen or valued or heard or appreciated or not validated for your skills at all, you
Mm,
held it together, and it wasn't until you then got into a place where you were safe
mhm.
that you burnt out or had that experience of breakdown.
Absolutely. I think because
Wow.
I'd been holding it in for so long, and there was
Yeah.
a part of me that didn't want to break down in his presence, then it means he's broken me.
Yeah.
So I held it all together. Then when I was in this school, that's when I was just like, I've been holding on to a lot of things. I literally cannot. I had a severe breakdown, and just to show you the difference between the mentors, I think if I'd had a breakdown in my previous school, I don't think he would have picked up the phone to check in. I don't know if he would have been capable of doing that. But this lady, I didn't go to school. I sent an email. I called in sick, and then she texted me a couple of days later, and she recognized that my texts were not good texts, and she rang. She rang emergency services to come and do a welfare check for me,
Isn't
and
that
that was
lovely? So you really had support.
there was really some support. That was my wake up call to, I called the GP, and then I was under the mental health team at the hospital. So they would come, they would see me, and until I got a bit better, they're like, "You need to leave, you need to leave the house now. You need to go." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to work and I'm gonna see how it looks like." The first day I went to work, nobody asked me about my mental breakdown. Nobody spoke about it. People were just loving. They were just happy to see me back. And I remember
Oh,
just saying, she was basically like, okay, we need to make a plan because I missed a month. She's like, okay, because we've missed a month, we need to catch up on everything. I want you to be signed off on everything. So we got on this plan to get signed off everything. I did parents' evening, Ofsted came in, I did like all of that, and I passed.
oh my goodness.
Passed.
I just it's a heartbreaking story
Yeah.
for me, and I know listeners are going to find it heartbreaking, but can you give us some things that have helped you to heal and new ways of doing it that you have learned? Because I know that you're a fighter, you're an overcomer. I mean, your past story, I heard earlier today, is a story of discovering your identity, and people can ask you about where they can hear about that later, maybe, but you're clearly a real fighter, and you're determined to discover the best of who you can be.
Mm.
What are some of the things, just in summary, before we finish, would you say that people need to hear?
So one of the things that really worked for me at the school that I'm working at now, where I started my ECT training. I've finished, by the way, I just finished. They gave me a gift this weekend. I was like, woo! One of the things that have really worked is being able to recognize that I need help and ask for it.
Yeah,
I'm I'm no longer in that moment where I try to reinvent the wheel. If I don't know it, I really don't know it. And I will go and I'll say, do you know what? This might sound really stupid, but I actually don't know how to do this. Um, or how does this work? A classic example is, doing those curriculum document planning. I absolutely hate that with a passion. I don't know how to do it. And but I have to.
yeah,
So I always go to one of my colleagues and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Could you please show me? Could you please tell me how it's done? I'm a person who, if I see, I can do. You can explain to me, over the phone, which is fine, but I will visually see and I will learn. And I find that really helpful. Having a strong support network. I mean, I am far from home. My parents live in Leeds, and my husband worked away for most of our marriage. There's that strong support system. My mom talks to me every morning on my way to work. We check in. It's something that we put in place after my meltdown. We check in. My siblings check in with me, but I do realize that not everybody has parents and siblings. So I have also built a community around me through church. My son has a place where he can go for sleepovers if I'm overwhelmed. Prior to that, I used to, on like maybe Saturdays, I would just find someone to come and look after him so I can sleep because we underestimate the power of sleep. Do you know you
oh,
can do so much when you're rested? And
yeah,
I'm really on this journey where I am now working from a place of rest and not from a place of busyness and overproductive. Because the penny dropped for me this year when I was off school for over 6 weeks, signed off with severe migraines, and the doctor thought I had early onset dementia because I was having memory loss. That's when the
mm,
penny dropped. And I said, I need to work from a place of rest. So now, if I'm not rested, I'm not working, I'm not doing anything. So I must really rest. If you're in a position, I would say if someone is in a position to hire someone for a couple of hours to look after your child, or you've got a friend, or you've got something, I would say do it. Send your kid over, or let the person come in your house and you can sleep, and your child is in within the environment that they know. That has been really helpful for me. And one of my friends, we discussed this, and we give each other weekends so her daughter can come over to my house for the day and she can do whatever she wants. My son can go over to her house for the day and
yeah,
I can do whatever I want. But never, never, never underestimate the power of community and
yeah,
and support, because those people will carry you. And sometimes it's even things like, people that can cook for you. It's the simple things in life, but they make such a huge difference. I
Yeah.
have one lady, well, two of them, who sometimes they will cook and they'll just bring food. And that means for
Mm.
2 days, 3 days in a row, I'm not cooking. So it means I'm coming home, I'm relaxing, my family is eating a home cooked meal, and life is good.
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, I love that. Priv, that's just amazing. We're running out of time, but I guess you've got so much to share and such an amazing story, and the way that you've struggled, but you've come through, and you have ways of not just surviving, but actually thriving.
Mm.
And if people want to have a chat with you or anything, where would they be best to contact you? Is it on LinkedIn?
Yep, LinkedIn is where I'm at. It's just Priv Obrike, Priv. My last name is Obrike, Obrike. And if they
Okay,
need to email me, it's priv@privobrike.co.uk. So yeah,
that's
it's
easy.
just
And
all
you have
things.
a book, don't you, Priv? What's it called?
I do. I have a book. It's called Identity, finding a guide to finding your identity in Christ. So that came out 2017. Um, I am hoping in the next year and a half to do a book on education, based on my experience and supporting other ECTs and PGCE students. So yeah,
Wow, watch this space. Well, I've read your book, The Identity Piece, and I would highly recommend it. It's very easy to read. You can dip in and out. So yeah, do go find it if you want to hear more from Priv. But thanks so much, Priv, and thanks everyone for listening.
welcome. Bye.
Thanks for listening. I hope you took something of value from today. If you want to connect, I'm at rowenahicks.com, or I have a Facebook group, which is Preventing Teacher Burnout. So I look forward to connecting to you at one of those.